What's up and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm so excited because I'm going to show you how I do a quick mini move up appointment for a hybrid weft hair extension install. And if you're new to my channel, my name is Mirella Manelli. I'm a hair educator and salon coach. But before we get this video started, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on all notifications so you don't miss a video. Now let's go ahead and get started. It has been 6 weeks since my client first got her initial installation of 3 rows of hybrid weft hair extensions, and now it's time to move them up. And part of this appointment too is also color matching the top to the end. So toner always fades out, so when we do a move up, we also do a color gloss service. So that's what we're going to be doing today. First the mini move up and then the gloss service. Now you can see she has high density and really thick coarse hair as well. And that's the main reason why we needed to do the 3 rows, in addition to her pretty blunt and short haircut that she started with, but she's had lots of grow out. So right here, what you can see is the 6-week grow out of what a weft looks like. And that's what we're going to do first, is do the move up, and then we're going to do the color. And the reason for that is because when we move up the beads, we immediately wash the hair right after. Now you can see how much growth she's had. You can see the difference in the line of all of that dark hair. We haven't colored her hair whatsoever on the underside. So she has quite a bit of regrowth going on. So this is really exciting news. That line of where that blonde starts, that's where she started with her hair extension journey. So the fact that we've been able to grow out this really healthy hair, and her overall goal is to eventually not need the extensions, we are definitely on the right path. The first thing that you're going to do for a mini move up is start from the bottom, and then you're going to work your way up. So this is the very first row on the bottom level, but you can see we have a little bit of fixing to do because we have a bead just kind of hanging out, not even attached to the weft, which is not a big deal. But we're going to flip this weft completely up and then isolate each of those beads and basically separate it, because this is what's holding that weft up. And from there, we're going to gently separate each of the beads apart from each other. So this does a couple of things. This not only pushes the weft closer to the root area, but this is also going to detach any of the crosshairs that have attached to each other on the underside as the hair's just kind of been worn and grown out. One other thing that I noticed as I was trying to move them up is that the thread was looped over the bead here, or it might have just slipped inside of there through brushing and normal wear and tear. So I'm just going to kind of guide that little mini hair out of that thread, so that way the thread can live on the sides of the bead. That's really important when you're doing your install. So I'm not sure how I got there, because usually I check each of my rows before we move on if I need to redo anything. But essentially, we got it moved over, so it's looking great. We just got to fix that one in the middle. And I'm just going to continue to move these up, make sure they're thoroughly separated. And then another tip, that something that I didn't do during the service, was actually brush her hair before we got started. If I would have brushed it, it would have been so much more easier to navigate through. But from here, I'm going to start the move up process. So I'm using this Luxe tool and gently popping that bead open, and then moving it right on up. But the key to this is making sure that it's really comfortable. I usually like to start in the center, because that's where most of the grow out kind of starts, and a lot of the tension kind of hangs out towards the side or the edges of the hair. So I want to focus on that center piece, so that way I make sure it's not bubbling or getting too saggy. And basically I work from the middle and then the right to the left until I get to the edges. One important thing when you're doing a move up is you want to make sure that your beads are in great condition still. The way that you know that a bead has just kind of had its day is when it becomes very discolored and it just looks like it's about to fall apart. So these beads are in general in pretty great condition. This client doesn't wash her hair super often, and that's another indicator too that these beads are doing really well. She does a great job of brushing her hair extensions. You can see that there's not a lot of debris living underneath them, and overall they look
great. So I don't need to replace them. But if you did need to replace them, you would just simply remove this bead and then loop a brand new bead inside of this exact same hair section. A really good practice when you are moving up your beads is make sure you're detangling each and every section before you secure your bead. This is something that I didn't do in this video. Do as I say, not as I do in this instance, but it's mostly because I was working in this very awkward space and I was recording, so I was just trying to get through it for you guys. But right here, this little section, I actually collapsed the bead. So this is an indicator that this bead is just kind of like done and I'm not going to be able to reuse it. So keep in mind these silicone beads are coated with aluminum and then coated in the inside with the silicone. So they're actually pretty fragile pieces of metal. So this is when I needed to bust out the big gun. So this is my, I guess, flare tool opener, I think is what it's called. I'm going to put all the tools that I use down below so you get to see what they are. But I just put those little pinchers in each side and then I'm able to pop it open and slide it right on out. So this is where you're going to be able to see exactly how I replace a bead, which is kind of exciting because this does happen when you do a move up appointment. And this is why it's not always the best thing to do on yourself at home. This is why going to a professional is necessary to not only make sure that each of the beads are in great condition, but you're just keeping your hair in great condition because that's really important part of having hair extensions. Now that I have all my beads moved up and I'm working on the very last one towards the end of the weft, I'm going to now move up that kind of loner one that's not even attached to the weft itself. But a great indicator to know that your weft is installed correctly is to make sure that all of your beads are in great alignment with each other. They should not be one higher or lower than the other or slightly diagonal. They all need to be exactly parallel with each other. So because this bead is just kind of a loner, I am going to go ahead and move it up, but I know that I'm going to have to sew the weft back onto this bead. So it's very important that I remember exactly where that weft is at, and you'll be able to tell too. So now that I have all the beads moved up, this is where I was saying that you wanted to detangle each of the sections. I usually detangle and comb through each of these sections before I move on to the next bead or before I close the bead. That's just kind of, I guess, a preference in a lot of ways, but I do want to show you exactly how much hair is falling out. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm combing through all of this and I'm collecting it in my hand so that way you can see exactly what a normal amount is like, and everyone's going to be a little different. Some have more hair fall out than others and some have less hair fall out than others. And this is how you know you have a really great install. The weft is nicely lined up. Now we do have that little hole we need to fix, so we are going to sew that bad boy back on. So what I'm trying to do here is just exactly see where it's living, kind of have my finger as a placeholder. And I just need to make sure that we're going to sew on the right side and the left side of the bead. So that way the weft has an anchor point and something to kind of hold on to, because the last thing we need is that little space there. And the way I do this is I double up my thread and I loop that needle in between my thread to lock it in place. So you can see that the end is knotted up and I'm securing it. And I'm just going to do this a couple times. Then I'm going to secure it by doing my little fun hack. And what I do is once I come to that end point, I really just want to secure off that thread. I'm going to wrap it around my needle 3 times and then just gently guide that loop all the way down. But this is kind of like a slow and gentle process. You're just going to do it little by little by little, getting that knot as close as possible. And then I just cut the excess thread off and we got a nice clean install. Now we're ready to move on to the second row. So now I'm going to go ahead and speed this up because hopefully you got a little bit of a preview of exactly what a move up entails. And here is that 6-week grow out again. We got a beautiful grow out with this one. Her weft looks like in great shape, although we do have this little surprise pin that I went ahead and removed. And then we're just going to flip that bad boy up and isolate each of those beads, bring them down, and repeat the same exact process. Pricing for a mini move up is going to vary greatly depending on the hairstylist that you go to, the experience level, as well as just the salon and the type of extension method that you have installed. But the range for a mini move up can vary between $50 per row all the way up to the thousands I've seen for a mini move up. It just depends on the added value that you're adding. But I can tell you that at my salon in Mission Viejo, we charge $75 per row for my junior artists to move them up. And then any services like a shampoo, blow dry, or any color services are done a la carte. So everything is extra. But if you just wanted to come in for a mini move up, it's $75 per row. And this generally takes about 30 minutes per row to do. So moving up these 2 rows took me about 45 minutes to an hour. And now I want to move on to that third and final row to move up. Now, something that I do want to show you here is that she brushed her hair a little too hard. Now, she did notify me about this, and I usually include fixing the weft if it's like a simple fix like this. Now, if the weft is just not taken care of, or there's tons of matting, or there's lots of pulling and just it's not overall taken care of, then usually I have like a different conversation with my client. But you can tell her extensions are extremely clean. There's no debris underneath any of these beads whatsoever, and her just, accidentally brushing her hair extensions a little too hard. I'm pretty sure she learned her lesson herself by being a little bit more gentle and careful. She is a first-time hair extension wearer, so she's going to have a little bit of a learning curve throughout washing and styling and wearing them and brushing them and just overall caring for them. So these are all great conversations to have with your client as you start, to do their move up. So I'm going to fix this little bad boy. I know that I'm going to need at least 2 beads here, so that way the weft can hold on to that section underneath. So I'm just kind of visually measuring this out. Now, thankfully, she didn't brush her hair too hard to the point where she pulled out her hair. Thankfully, she does have pretty high density, and also her hair is coarse, so it is really strong. And even though it is thick, dense, and strong, you do want to be really careful when you get closer to that front hairline, because everybody's hair is a lot more sparse than what's going on in the interior. So once I get these 2 beads lined up, I'm going to just double check that it is perfectly aligned, so that way I know I can sew it correctly on each side of the bead. One thing you do not want to do though is cut the previous thread, because if you do that, you're going to unravel the rest of the thread that's sewn into the other beads. So that's why I'm just sewing right on top of this old thread. It can get a little bulky depending on the type of weft and thread you are using, but it is imperative that you just sew right on top of it. And I just want to make sure that I'm securing it really nicely and it's comfortable, cutting that thread really closely, so that way she just has another seamless blend. The next time she comes in 6 weeks, we're actually going to do a full removal and reinstall. Now that I have her 3 rows moved up, I'm going to mix up her toner formula, because we need to retone her natural hair so that it blends into the extension hair just a little bit better. And that's totally normal, because about every 6 to 8 weeks you do need a toner to kind of like refresh everything. So she's a little bit more on the warm side compared to the extensions. So I'm going to go in with a really quick toner. It's the SV Rapid Toner from Kenra Professional. It tones in less than 5 minutes. It's the perfect toner for her. Little tip is to always use the scale, because you're going to get the best accuracy. I'm mixing this up 1 to 2, but my tripod's broken, so I just wanted to show you the color. And yes, I kind of eyeballed it, but I also did measure it on the scale. She also can maintain this tone with like a color depositing conditioner, like the Moroccan oil mask. So they have like different colors and things like that. So there is one that's more on the platinum side. That's probably what I would recommend for her. Or she can even do like a blue shampoo and conditioner in between. But generally this works really great for her. Keep in mind her hair is more on the coarse side. It's really thick, so the toner does wash out quicker with that. Washing it a lot less in between
services is going to give you better longevity for your color. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix this up, and then we're gonna get this put on in the bowl. Like I said, less than 5 minutes, so she'll be ready. All of my glosses, especially with the rapid toner, start out with a double cleanse. Usually for hair extensions, we typically do one clarifying shampoo and then follow up with 2 additional shampoos just to make sure we're cleansing the scalp, especially around that weft area. So once that's all done, I go in with my rapid toner right onto the top area and then in between the wefts, and I'm kind of leaving the ends out a little bit because I'm just gonna barely blush those through towards the end. But this stays on for a full 5 minutes, and then we rinse it out, do a hydration treatment, and then blow dry it. So a little hack is we like to use this comb attachment to dry the wefts, and then we go in and finish it off with some curls. I personally really like this very large T3 iron, and just in general I really like the T3 irons because they're extremely hot. They're like single pass irons, so that means I can get a smoothing effect as well as a curl all in one. And because they're so hot, they work extremely well if you want to increase the heat for coarser hair types like this. I of course use thermal protection throughout the entire process, so you do want to maintain the integrity of the hair. But overall, I am going to see her back in about 6 weeks, and we'll just go ahead and touch up her highlights, do a full removal, reinstall, reglaze, and everything. But overall cost for this particular client, it was $75 per row, $130 for the toner and the blowout, and then an additional $30 for the treatment. And this overall took 3 hours to complete. And here's the final result. We did rush a little bit to go outside and take some really quick final shots because she had to jet on out from her appointment. This was an impromptu YouTube tutorial, and I really hope that you enjoyed this little mini move up hair tutorial. I absolutely love how her hair turned out. It blends beautifully. You couldn't even tell that these are extensions, especially from the front here. And we're going to continue to grow out her natural hair and overall just get it to that length and density that she's desiring. She definitely can do it because she has the hair for it naturally. We're just trying to camouflage the length in the meantime. And let me know down below what you loved about this mini tutorial, or if there's something that I missed. Definitely let me know down below in the comments. To learn more about hair extensions or hair color, just anything in hair education period, you're going to want to make sure to get on my email list and be the first to know about when I drop my hair education for 2024. Or if you want to be a host for one of my hands-on classes, make sure you sign up for the inquiry form down below. So I really hope you enjoyed this hair video, and if you did, please give this video a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe. If you want more education sent right to your inbox, be sure to head on over to MirellaManelli.com and sign up for my newsletter. I also just launched my Airbnb podcast here on YouTube as well, so make sure you check out those videos right here on this channel. And for all of the ways to learn how to work with me, you can check out the links down below. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, all under Mirella Manelli. And I will see you in the next video.